Hello and welcome to TrackVia's Turning Ideas into Apps, our low-code TrackVia demo. My name is Michelle Martz Mayfield and I'm the PR and Corporate Communications Manager for TrackVia. And our presenter today will be Brandon Gill, our Senior Solutions Consultant. We're going to start off with some basic housekeeping. You started off in listen-only mode. Please keep your microphones off so everyone can hear the presentation. If you have any questions, please submit them via our chat window. We'll follow up with those at the end of the broadcast, and if we can't get to them live, we will email you. The webinar is being recorded, and we will provide you with that recording within 48 hours after this webinar. And with that, that wraps up all the housekeeping, so I will hand it over to Brandon. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. So hello, everybody, and thank you for attending this month's webinar. Just a little intro into what we are going to cover today. Over the next half hour, we're going to talk a little bit about who we are here at TrackVia, what we really focus on, and the technology space that we play in, which is called low code. We're going to talk about what low code is, who can use low code, and we're going to spend a majority of the time today in an actual demonstration showcasing TrackVia demo, how we build in it, some common use cases and some things like that. So a little bit about TrackVia and who we are. So we were founded in 2006, and a term you'll hear me use quite a bit is low code. That's a term that is becoming a lot more common. There's bigger players getting into the space, there's smaller players coming into the space, and just for context, this term was really originated in 2005. So since we were founded in 2006, we do consider ourselves to be an early leader in this space. We're headquartered here in Denver, Colorado, with about 75 employees and over 350 customers. And you can see on the right-hand side, I've highlighted some of those customers that span a lot of different industries. And I've chosen these customers specifically for that reason. We don't cater to one specific industry. We have a few industries where we maybe have some more clients versus other industries, but the beauty of a low-code system is we can cover all of these different companies, all of these different industries, and all of these people do different things with TrackVia. And we'll cover that more in a little bit, but just for some context, the North Face uses us for some custom ordering workflows that they have, where they have taken the time for those custom orders from 21 days down to 7 days. KSI is an oil field company that uses us a lot in the field for safety checks and asset management. Stearns Home Loans uses us for a host of different back office operations. They have over 20 applications in TrackVia. Honeywell uses us on their procurement team. Las Vegas Sands uses us on their anti-money laundering team. Deep Roots Harvest is a large cannabis customer of ours that really uses TrackVia for their entire operation. They think of us as like an ERP light system, if you will. So a lot of different companies that we can talk about, a lot of different use cases, and that really speaks to the flexibility of low code and some of the things that we're going to show you as we go throughout the webinar today. So what is low code? Well, if you look up the textbook definition of what low code is in the space that we play in, you'll get something like this. Software that provides a development environment used to create applications through graphical user interfaces and configuration instead of traditional hand-coded computer programming. What that really means is you can build very robust business applications with just dragging and dropping elements over, building out forms, building out dashboards, things like that. You don't need to be a programmer to build these complex business applications. Certainly, if you have some programming background, that can be beneficial, but you don't need it anymore with low-code systems. And it is important to note that TrackVia is a low-code system, not a no-code system. And no code basically just means there is no coding at all. With TrackVia, we do actually have some more advanced functionalities that allow you to inject some code. So for some of our IT folks that use the system, they take advantage of that quite a bit. But a lot of our admins actually don't need to use that at all. It, again, just depends on what you want to do with the system. Now, when we think about low code, I mentioned that this is a growing term, and it's a growing term because more and more people are entering the space, and they're entering it in a lot of different capacities. So if we think about low code as a spectrum, on the left-hand side are the tools that I think we all commonly know and use: Excel, Access Database, things like this. You can build very complex worksheets in Excel and some very complex workbooks that can be business applications, and many times they're used that way. The problem there is scalability. So even though it is kind of a low-code system, eventually that scale just starts to make it to where the system isn't really usable anymore, and you need to upgrade to something better, or you start losing data and things like that. On the right-hand side, you have what we think of as developer toolkits. These are systems like OutSystems and Appian. Gartner and Forrester and other analyst groups technically in the years past have considered these low-code tools. I would argue they're really not low-code tools because you do need to know how to code in order to use them, but they give you a framework to start with, if nothing else. As this space has grown a little bit, Gartner and Forrester and other folks like that have started to chop up what they think of as low code into some more specific market segments, but still those developer toolkits are out there and they are considered low code. Then you have TrackVia taking up the middle, and we are what I consider to be a true low code system. So everything that you're going to see in the demonstration today was built with very little to no code. It's built with that drag and drop user interface. You can pick this stuff up and run with it as long as you have that kind of technical mind, you understand your process, maybe have a little Excel background, you can build very robust things in TrackVia. And then if you want a little bit more of that advanced flavor, we do have the ability to add some code with what we call application scripts. So really that true low code where we're not too lightweight, we're not too heavy, we're just right there in the middle. So who is low code for? Ultimately, it's for everybody. So at TrackVia, we really focus on business users and allowing people that know the processes to utilize low code to build out these workflows, whether they're very robust workflows or very simple workflows every day. We do it for businesses that are maybe a little smaller and don't have a huge IT presence and they don't want to bother their IT team because they don't want to get on the list of projects that IT is already too bogged down with. And then for large organizations, sometimes IT professionals do want to own the system. So they use it as another tool in their tool belt to stand up these applications very quickly. Very advanced admins can stand up a TrackVia application in a couple of weeks, where custom development might take several months in order to stand up something like that. So it really is a tool that can be used by everyone. With that being said, let's get into the demonstration. And today what I'm going to demonstrate for you all is a basic example of a project tracking type use case. So in this use case, we're going to start out as a project director who is going to manage all of our projects and issue out a new project and assign out a PM to it. That project manager will receive the new project, they'll be notified that they were assigned to it, and they'll take the tasks for that project and assign those tasks out to different individual team members. Those team members will complete those tasks, and in this case, we'll complete a task on a mobile device, so you can actually see what our mobile interface looks like. That all ultimately rolls back up to the project manager and rolls back up to the director as the project gets complete. So it's a pretty high level example. It might not match all the things that you could use TrackVia for, but I think at some point in our lives, we've all done some type of project management, even if it was just on a high school group project or something like that. So it's a use case we're all familiar with, and it does a good job showcasing the tools that we have in TrackVia to build out these different applications. So let's jump over to TrackVia now. You'll see that we're now in TrackVia and we are on that project tracking application. I'll start by giving a quick orientation to the screen so everyone's familiar with what we're looking at. In our top left-hand corner, we have our TrackVia logo. This serves as our home button that takes us to the main dashboard on any application. This can, of course, be custom branded to your organization. You can put your logo up here so that it really looks and feels like it is your own system, as can the URL up here. You can give a custom URL as well. We're in an application called Project Tracking, but what I always like to do for folks is hit this drop down just to show you all of the different applications I have in this particular account. So things like asset tracking, deal flow tracking, inventory tracking, invoice approval, production management, quality control. All of these are just example applications that we've built in this demonstration environment to showcase common use cases that we hear. Our average customer has about 6 different applications, and that's really where the value of something like TrackVia comes out for TrackVia customers, being able to build things that are incredibly robust, like a full manufacturing process, or really simple, like a vacation tracking tool. So you can do a lot of different things with the system, and you're certainly not limited to just one application when you're building on top of it. Below that, I have access to this admin toolbar here. And then I have 4 different dashboards in this case. Each one is going to represent the different people in our process. So project portfolios, our project director, my projects will be the project manager, my tasks will be that individual contributor, and then we've got some analytics as well. Each of these dashboards are made up of a series of elements that really create a unique user experience to each user and the dashboards that they have. So you'll see some shortcut buttons, a grid type view, some charts will be sprinkled throughout here. We've got what we call a lanes view or a Kanban board down here. And again, each of these dashboards can be custom configured to fit the unique needs of that person. So let's get into this here. We're going to start by just creating a new project. And when I do that, I'm going to be taken to a custom form. Now, like everything else in TrackVia, this is totally up to you how you would want this form to look. It's very easy for us to add new fields into it, take fields away, create new form rules on this. We can do a lot of different things with this form. But in my case, we'll start by just putting in some basic information. So let's call this a webinar project. I'll assign out my resource actually on the dashboard here in just a second. So we'll cover that in just a brief moment. We can put some start dates and end dates in here. So we've got some dedicated date fields to help keep our data clean in this case. And you'll see that our project stage is defaulted to the planning stage. So this is a form rule that we've got set up. Another form rule I have is you'll see our project type actually has a little asterisk by it. That makes this a required field. So I actually cannot save this data without filling that in. So our adoption at TrackVia is very high for some of these form rules reasons. So the fact that you can make fields required, the fact that you can have show hide rules that we'll look at in just a second makes it very easy for your users to know what information to fill in and make sure that it keeps your data very clean. Now, talking about show hide rules on this project type, if I hit this drop down here, I've got 3 different project types in this case. I've got 2 of them that are labeled as customer types and 1 that is not. If I select one of these customer types, it's a show hide rule that's then going to ask me, okay, because we said it was a customer type project, who is the customer? Let's just say it's Toyota in this case. And what's our anticipated project revenue? And let's just say it's $10,000 in this case. Again, we can always add more fields to this, but let's keep it simple and keep it at these fields. The other thing we can do is also add in things like a project agreement. So PDFs, Word docs, Excel files, all that stuff is fair game within TrackVia. You can also link to an external folder. So lots of different ways that we can get data into the system and push data back out of the system. Now that we have all this filled out, we'll hit Save Changes on this. And what's going to happen is based on the fact that I selected a customer feature request as our project type, it's going to auto-generate the 4 tasks that need to be completed for every customer feature request that we do. Now, that's just how I have project management set up. If you want to do project management in a different way where every project has its unique set of tasks, or we maybe have some tasks that are repeated and some that are not, it's totally up to you to make that change. We do not try to box our customers into how we think you should do things at TrackVia. We want our program to be a 100% fit to your workflows and not try to force your workflows into our software. That's a really big thing for us. But in my case, I've gone ahead and selected this customer feature request, which generates these 4 tasks. If we step back out to the dashboard here, we're going to see that that webinar project is now sitting in the resource not assigned bucket. And what I can do with this lanes view is I can pick this card up and I can move it over and assign it to one of my project managers. And in this case, I'll just assign it to myself. We have some conditional formatting going on as well that's showing me what stage the projects are in. So live stage is green, planning is this kind of mauve color, ready for review is in purple. So conditional formatting can be a really good way to visualize what's going on in your world. And again, just give you that insight into what's happening in your workflow. So now that I've assigned this out to a project manager, a couple different things have happened. One of those is if I bring over my email, we're going to see that 0 minutes ago, I received this email out of TrackVia saying that I had been assigned to a new project because I assigned myself as the project manager. With this, I get some basic information about the project. I can always add more information to this if I want, but I get some basic information about the project, and I get this live button that allows me to click directly into the record we just created. So you can send these automated notifications out of TrackVia to help you keep track of what's going on. You can send them based on time, or you can send them based on an action. So like me getting assigned to that project kicked off that email notification. With that in mind, let's move over to the My Projects dashboard, where I'm now looking at things from the world of a project manager. I can see the projects that I'm assigned to down here. There's that webinar project. I can see the project tasks by status. You'll see I've got some overdue things, so maybe I need to check on those. And then obviously for our webinar project, we have a lot of tasks that have not actually been assigned out yet. But again, a different UI experience for a different type of user. If we go back out to here, what we can do on this timeline view is actually start to just drag these tasks around and assign them out to different users on more of a timeline basis. So a lot of different ways you can interact with data within TrackVia. This is just one of them. but we can move these tasks around, give you a nice visual of what the timeline should be for the tasks that actually make up this project. Now, when I do that, everything in TrackVia updates in real time. So since I've made that change out here on the dashboard, if I click back into the record where we created that project and we're looking at those tasks, you'll see I now have task resources assigned out with scheduled start dates and scheduled due dates for those resources as well. So there's no waiting, there's no lag time. Everything in TrackVia will always update in real time, and that includes our charts as well. Finally, if I go over to the My Tasks dashboard, this looks at the world from more of that individual contributor, the person that has to complete those tasks, but might not be looking at it from a project perspective. And you can see the 2 tasks that I assigned to myself are sitting on our calendar view here, and they're sitting down here in our grid type view as well. Now, what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to complete one of these open tasks, but I'm actually going to do so on a mobile device. So if I bring over this screen here, this is reflecting off of an iPad that I've got sitting on the desk in front of me. So TrackVia has a native mobile application. So if I hit this home button here, you're going to see the TrackVia app right there in the middle of the screen. So it's downloadable in both the iOS store and the Google Play Store. And it's a direct reflection of everything that we build on the web. So if I were to click into this task calendar, it's going to generate a calendar that looks almost identical to how it looks on the web. So it's very easy to move between the two, whether you have a really a workflow that requires a mobile application, like a field service use case, or you just want the ability to be able to pick up your phone and see what's going on in TrackVia. I think we're every day moving more and more toward a more mobile world. So just the fact that you can do that can be really beneficial. The other nice things about a native mobile app is there's no separate code base to manage. So again, everything we build on the web, automatically available on the mobile, and we can actually take advantage of the features of the mobile device. And we'll get into that here in just a second. So I'm going to hit this button to complete an open task. When I do that, I'm taken to a view that shows me the 2 open tasks I have that are assigned to me. And we'll just start with this first one. This is going to take me into a form on the mobile device that looks like this. So these are all the fields that we were collecting on the web that we can now see on mobile. So I can see a basic task overview. I can see some task dates like the start date and the due date. I've got the actual date started defaulted to today's date for when we actually hit that button to kick off this workflow. And we'll say the actual date completed was today as well, and it'll calculate a task duration for us. We've got some task notes, so this can be like work instructions. We can attach files in here for work instructions or diagrams or anything that we might want there. And then we can start to take advantage of the mobile device to capture some information. So doing things like location capture. If I hit that button there, it's going to say, where is this task taking place? And it'll pin it to where the mobile device is at here at my apartment in Broomfield, Colorado. I can also grab a photo. So if I hit the photo button, I've got a cup of water sitting here with me, so we can attach that in place. This can be great for quality control use cases, inventory use cases, anything like that. And then with this, we can actually draw on this as well. So if we need to call out any errors or any issues that we might see, we can do that in TrackVia as well. Finally, we'll capture a signature. So I can verify that I did complete this task. And what I tell people on the signature is, depending on your use case, that might be required, whether it's a regulatory reason or you just want that accountability for people signing off. But with the signature, it is not a necessity in TrackVia because we do have a full audit history. So we can always see who did what, when, and where in the system at any given time, which is really great. With that, we will complete this task, which will take us back out to our dashboard. And now if I move the mobile device over, and we refresh our screen here, we're going to see that the task we completed is now showing up in green because we completed it on time with the conditional formatting I set up, and it's fallen out of the My Open Tasks queue. So I want to stop the storyline here and just recap what we went through. So a project director was able to kick off a new project, give some basic information to that project, and assign it to a project manager. That project manager was able to get a notification that they'd been assigned to that, assign out those different tasks to folks, and then make sure that all of that was aligned the way they wanted to on the timeline view. And then as an individual user, we were able to complete one of these tasks on a mobile device, which will update the project manager, update the director, and ultimately update the status of the project as we continue on with these tasks. So it's a lot of stuff that we just did in the last 15 minutes or so, but it's a pretty good workflow and one that I think speaks to a lot of people. So I want to step out of that storyline here and cover a couple more things in the next 5 minutes or so before we turn it over to some questions. One of those things being project analytics. So this is a dashboard I've set up specifically for analytics, and I've called it project analytics, but you can call it whatever you want. And in this case, we're focused on any type of charts that we might want to do in TrackVia. And the important things with these charts, like everything else in TrackVia, is that they are all going to update in real time. So you can see some different examples of these charts, like some like a pivot type view, where we can actually see the revenue generated by each project manager and by each project type. We've got more of a line graph that's showing all of our projects over time. We've got a pie chart that shows us all of our customers broken down by revenue. And all of this stuff is fully drillable. So if I want to drill down into the projects we've done in Q1, it's going to take us to that webinar project, where I could click into that and actually see all the details behind this project, see the tasks that have been completed. I could roll up to the actual customer level and see the breakdown of everything we've done for Toyota, see all the orders they've had, see all the projects we've done for them. So the analytics are very drillable, very easy to work with, and will always update in real time, which can be really important. The last thing I want to do is show you all how easy it is to build within TrackVia. And to do that, I'm going to use a pretty simple use case of adding a field onto a table and then adding that field onto a form, and just show you how that works in a low code type environment. So underlying TrackVia is a relational database that's made up of a series of tables. So you can see all of the tables that I have in this particular account here. If I go down to one of my tables, and we'll just do the projects table in this case, and I edit this table, it takes me to what we call our table editor. Now on the left-hand side of the table editor are all the different field types I can use. So text and number fields we're typically going to type into. We've got some drop downs and check boxes. These keep our data very clean. There are choice type fields, so there's some of my favorites. Date and time we've looked at, again, keeping our data very clean by forcing people to put in an actual formatted date and time. Some specialty fields like images and documents and emails and things like that. A location field we've looked at. And then all of the calculated fields that we have that you might think of for any calculation you would do in Excel, you can do in TrackVia. In the middle is all of the raw data that we're capturing on this particular table. We don't have to expose all of this to our end users, because you'll see as we get down here, we've got a lot of calculated information. So maybe we don't want our end users to see all this, but in its most raw sense, this is what's being collected on this table. Now, if I want to add a new field onto this table, all I have to do is say, what field type do I want? And I'll take a drop-down list in this case. I can just drag it over and drop it in place. I'm going to give this a field name. Let's just call this priority, and maybe give it some options like high, medium, and low, and hit save on that. And that's really all it takes to add a new field into a table in TrackVia. So it's very straightforward, very easy to do. The next thing we'll want to do is actually put this field onto a form so we can start to collect information on it. So if I hit our forms dropdown, forms are broken out by the tables that we have. So again, if I go down to our projects table, I can edit our project details form, which is going to take us to our form editor. Looks kind of similar to the table editor. Left-hand side are all the field types that we can use. Right-hand side is the actual layout that we want for the form. And what we can do is we can take that priority line that we just created and drag it over and drop it in place. And I can move it up here. I can make it a little bigger. And then on the individual fields, I even have some ability to make some changes. So I can edit this field, and you can see I can make this a required field if I want to. I can even change the colors of these backgrounds. So if I want to take this from more of a dark gray to maybe a light blue, I can do so. And when I hit save on that, it'll automatically update this form with the appropriate fields on it. So now if I jump back out to the dashboard here, and I want to create a new project, I can do that. You'll see the colors have changed. You'll see I've got my priority here. And once again, it's a required field, so I can't actually move forward without filling that in. So it's very easy to make changes. It's very easy to scale if you have new pieces of information you need to collect for regulatory reasons or just for business reasons because you want to collect new information. It's very easy to make these changes within TrackVia without any coding required, just the ability to drag and drop it over and add it into the table there. So at this time, I want to pause and go back to our presentation for a couple closing remarks, and then we'll get to a few questions that we've got in the last 5 minutes or so. So just some quick final notes to recap some of the stuff that Michelle covered with us. You all will be receiving an email with a recording of this webinar within 48 hours. We do value your feedback on these things. We do these every month for existing customers, new customers, even just people that want to learn about low code that maybe have no need for the system. We try to keep up with these on a monthly cadence, and we're always trying to improve them. So at the end of this webinar, you'll see a small survey pop up. Should be 3 questions. Really appreciate it if you took the time to fill that in. And then if you want any more immediate information, feel free to email me. I've included my email here at the bottom. And it's just brandon.gill@trackvia.com. So if you want more information, if you want to be reached out to by a member of our sales team or anything like that, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm always happy to take more questions. Now at this time, we do have a couple of different questions in the chat that I want to cover off on. So one of those questions is a question that we get quite a bit, and that is, what are some of the different form rules that you can create in a TrackVia form? And there's not really a set list that I have in this case, but a couple that I can think of off the top of my head are some of the ones that we just covered. You can create required fields, so you can always have fields that are required. You can do show hide rules, so if a field above has a certain criteria to it, show the ones below, kind of like what we did in this example here. You can also do what we call cascading dropdowns. So that's where you will filter a secondary field based on the selection of the first field. So if you have maybe locations you're working with and you want to say, show me everything that's in the Western region, and you have 100 different locations, it'll filter down to only those locations that are tagged in the Western region. You can also do child tables on parent forms. So that's another one that you can do, where we actually will take a parent form and you can add records below it very easily, makes it very clean for things like lists and stuff like that. A couple of other ones I'm sure, but kind of off the top of my head, if I think about the form rules we can do, those are some of the ones that I'm thinking about. Another question that came in is it possible to get a trial of TrackVia? It's a great question, and the short answer there is yes. So if you are brand new to TrackVia and you want to learn about getting a trial, on our website, trackvia.com, there is an option where you can go and request a trial. You'll fill in some basic information, and we can put you into a trial account. That trial account will come with a welcome application that has some basic information on different videos we can use and some links to our knowledge base to get you started with how to build in TrackVia. And then it also comes with 2 additional pre-built applications that give you just some examples of things that you can do in TrackVia, kind of like what we looked at here. So very easy to get a trial account. Let's see, I think we have time for one more question here. And this is one that we get quite a bit. From the mobile device, what can I actually download this onto? So that's a great question. So we are available on both iOS and Android. So if you have access to the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, you can download it onto your phone, onto your tablet, or anything like that. I have seen some like heavy duty devices as well that will run on an Android operating system that we've been able to get TrackVia on as well. So if you think of things like UPS barcode scanners or something like that, I don't know if that's the exact device that we are on, but any of those things that are maybe run on Android, we can get TrackVia on as well. And that's for the native application. If you have like a Windows tablet, when we are not featured on Windows, but if you have a Windows tablet, you can still access TrackVia through the browser in that way. But for the best mobile experience, I usually encourage people to look at iOS or Android and utilize our native mobile application, just because you get all of the things we talked about, the automatic updates, the real-time updates as you make changes on the desktop, the ability to capture photos, the ability to capture locations. Those things can get a little finicky if you start doing it with a responsive browser. And the separate code, not having to manage the 2 code bases on the native mobile app can be really beneficial as well. So we do have a couple more questions, but I do want to cut it off here. We're about at the half-hour mark, but I want to thank everybody once again. Again, you will be getting a survey as we wrap things up here. I'd appreciate it if you fill that in. And then any questions that you have, feel free to reach out to myself or anyone else on the TrackVia team. Thanks so much, everyone.